Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of the Ball Oasis Show. Y'all, we are about 2 months into the season already. That's crazy to say because it feels like we were just doing preseason standings predictions. But to already be almost to Christmas Day games, which is basically the third of the way point of the season, it's crazy to think about. But we've already seen some things take shape. But I think that today we've got a pretty good grip on teams that we're buying and selling, teams and players that we're buying and selling. That's going to be the title of the video, title of the episode. Buy or sell. We're hitting the NBA marketplace today, and we'll have a few teams and a few players who've really caught our eye, either positively or negatively. And we'll just kind of elaborate on that. Expect to see the power rankings come back within the next week or two as well, kind of as a conglomerate of this. But buy or sell is something that we had our eye on a few weeks ago, and I think this will be a good opportunity to shine some light on some teams and players who've really burst forth and burst onto the scene and gotten our attention. So Jacob, start with whatever you want. I know we have teams and players both, but just however you want to start it, Jacob. Just just throw something out there. Let's get the ball rolling.
All right. I guess I'll probably do a player first.
Okay.
So this player, I think I'm selling Sadiq Bey.
You're selling City Bay.
Yeah.
Okay. Can I before you say anything, Jacob has been on the record for saying that Sadiq Bey is one of his favorite underrated players in the NBA. And I know he's been in trade talks, so he might be
Yeah.
moved very soon. But Jacob, why are you low on Sadiq Bey all of a sudden?
I mean, I'm still high on him, but I guess this season he hasn't improved like I kind of projected him to. Watching him last year or some last year, I think his points per game is not. I think he's like it dipped 3 or 4 points, which isn't much. But with Cade being out, you kind of expect him to kind of take a step up. In some games, he still only has like 10 points some games. And the next game he'll have 20. So I get it might be the inconsistency of it, but I don't know. He's just not as good as I thought he would end up. The other player I'm selling kind of like that too, I guess, but I guess he's not taking that most improved jump like I kind of projected him to, I guess. But I still like him, but it's kind of falling away from it, I guess.
Yeah, you were super high on Sadiq Bey months ago going into the season, saying that
Yeah,
he could be a most improved player candidate. But I do think that the addition of Bojan Bogdanovic has definitely cut into his shots. And the Detroit Pistons, though, are a team that's not, thirsty for or
mid.
not.
Yeah,
They yeah they're gonna give guys opportunities. So right, you would think that Sadiq Bey would still get it in and get his shots and fit in where he gets in, but that hasn't happened so far. And maybe it's I think he's in his third year now. Maybe it's a junior year slump or whatever you want to call it. But yeah, he hasn't been great. I haven't really kept my eye on him much this year. I haven't really kept my eye on the Pistons though, especially since Cade's been out. So I don't know much of what's been going on over there, but I know that he's a guy that you kept your eye on. So it's kind of interesting for me to hear that you're selling him.
yeah. I wouldn't mind us trading for him, but it's I guess not as the stock is dipping. I guess.
Yeah, he's one of those guys that I could see also come when it comes down to signing his second extension past his rookie deal. I could see the Detroit Pistons not extending him. I could see him entering the restricted free agent market within the next season or two, and Detroit not give him an offer, and he might go sign somewhere else just because they don't feel like he's worth bringing back, especially since they, you know, extended Bojan Bogdanovic,
Yeah,
and the way he's been playing, he could really be a piece of their future if they really want that. So, yeah, Sadiq Bey hasn't been great, so I that's very warranted that you're selling him. I completely understand that.
yeah. How old is Bojan?
Bojan Bogdanovic is he looks old, but I
Yeah.
think he's only like 29. I think he's like 28, 29. He may be 30. He's in that range somewhere though.
Okay. Yeah, with him. Yeah, I see what you're saying. They might not extend him.
Yeah, because Bojan Bogdanovic has been lights out shooting the ball this year.
Yeah,
He's a 20 point per game scorer, and he's basically locked down that three position for the Pistons. They'll have either Isaiah Stewart or Jalen Duren run the center. And at the 4, that's where you think Sadiq Bey can kind of get it in, but they've got Marvin Bagley as
Yeah.
well. So, we'll see what happens with that. My I guess I'll go ahead and give my player that I'm selling as well, since we're on that topic. And I think you kind of alluded to it. I think that we have the same player that
Pretty
we're
sure.
about to bring up, just the way that you described him. And this was a guy that I was extremely, extremely high on coming into the season. I thought that he would be the best player on this team. I thought that he would, be an all-star, most improved player candidate in his 4th season now, I believe. That's RJ Barrett. RJ Barrett has not been good this year, to say the least. I've got some numbers on RJ Barrett here. He's averaging 18 points a game, 5 rebounds a game, 3 assists. So his counting stats aren't awful, but it's the efficiency numbers. The efficiency numbers are horrendous. He's shooting 40% from the field, 28% from 3. Both of those are career lows. He's not gotten better at the rim, where he was the worst
Yeah.
field goal at the
I was gonna
rim.
ask about that.
Yes, he's still hovering around that mark. He has a 116 defensive rating, which is like bottom 5th percentile in the NBA, which is terrible. And like I said, I really just expected him to take a jump. I thought that Jalen Brunson, being a playmaker, I thought would really take the load off of his shoulders, ball handling and shot creating wise. I thought that he could thrive in more of a catch and shoot role while, getting his own off the dribble. I thought that he could thrive as a secondary ball handler, but that hasn't really happened. And it's a young season still. Like I said, we're only about a third of the way in, if that at this point, maybe a third of the regular season. But RJ Barrett has not been good. He's been really, really bad. And it sucked for me to see because I'm not a guy who had the Knicks in the playoffs or anything. I had the Knicks as my 11th seed coming in. But I thought that if RJ Barrett really played at that level, he could, push them to a play-in spot and maybe contend with some of those teams for a playoff spot. But as of right now, RJ Barrett is not looking good. Knicks fans are on his case. They are anti RJ Barrett right now. That is not a fan base you want to trigger. So he's going to have to win back some hearts with his play over the next few months.
Yeah, I think I had the Knicks as my 10 seed, but I don't even know if that'll happen at this rate. But
Yeah.
but I say yeah, I've watched some Knicks games this year and I have not been impressed, especially with RJ. I don't think I was as high on him as you were, but I was still pretty high on him. With Jalen Brunson coming in, but it's just he hasn't improved. It's like he's not peaked, but he's just been the same. I
Well,
guess.
I don't even think it's that. I brought up earlier that I expected him to improve and be in that most improved player category, but he's actually regressed. He has
Yeah.
actually regressed this season. His jump shooting has been horrific. This was a guy that shot 40% from 3 2 years ago. In the 2020-2021 season, he shot 40% from 3 in the regular season, albeit maybe it was a fluke, maybe it was a product of no fans in the stands, depth perception, you name it. But RJ Barrett was a guy, he was a 40% shooter from 3. But we even saw in the playoff series against the Hawks that year, the Hawks didn't believe in that. They let RJ Barrett shoot regardless. And I think that it kind of got in his head. It kind of got in his head because he didn't shoot well in the playoffs. And I think ever since then, he has not really fully recovered from that. And I think that that's really been a roadblock for him. 28% shooting from 3 is really bad. Really, really bad for RJ Barrett. If he could just be league average, maybe even a little below at like 34, 35%, he would be a decent player for the Knicks. But he's got a way to climb to get there.
Yeah. I don't know with the Knicks. If they don't put a package together for, I don't want to say a star, but I guess I don't know, like a starter or something. I just don't see how they improve.
Well, you even had Mitchell Robinson come out and say that he's unhappy with his role. Cam Reddish has been unhappy with his role. I think Tom Thibodeau is out the door before long.
Yeah,
I think that his tenure has run its course. They made the playoffs. I think that season was the peak that they were going to get from a Tom Thibodeau Knicks team.
I think they were the 4th seed, 3 or 4 seed.
They were the
fourth or fifth, maybe.
They're fourth or fifth. They played the Hawks. That was the 4-5 matchup.
Okay.
But yeah, I think that was their peak. They can't get any better than that. This is a team that has solid pieces, but no real direction. This is a team that's built to be a defensive-minded team, and they're not that. So their identity is basically shot. So they've got nothing to fall back on. The Knicks are kind of just floating, and that's the worst place to be for a team. You want to be going in some direction. You want to either be contending or you want to be tanking. Let's
Yeah.
just call it what it is.
Yeah,
That middle ground is the scariest place to be.
Yeah, I watched a video about that earlier. That's like the worst place to be, is like the mediocre part. I guess it's horrible.
Right, because you maybe make the playoffs or the play-in, lose first round of the play-in, and your reward for the season is the 14th overall draft pick.
Yeah, you're
Congratulations.
Good enough to compete, but not bad enough to get better.
Yeah. That's enough Knicks RJ Barrett talk, though. Let's talk about some buys, Jacob. Let me give you my first buy team. My first buy team is the Miami Heat. I'm bought into the Miami Heat. I know they lost to Memphis tonight, and I know Memphis was a little shorthanded, but I'm buying into Miami. They've won 4 of their last 5 before tonight. Jimmy Butler came back from injury on Friday against the Celtics. They got a big win at TD Garden against the Boston Celtics in overtime. Big team win for them. I know Kyle Lowry is on the trade block. I have seen the rumors about that. I don't think that's detrimental to their team, though. I don't think Kyle Lowry is one of the core pieces on that team. I think he's expendable. But what are you realistically getting for Kyle Lowry? That's a whole nother topic. I don't think it's much. Unless you want to try to get Russell Westbrook. But he looks like a Laker right now. He looks like a Laker fan favorite right now. So as crazy as that is to say. But Bam has really impressed me lately. His offensive numbers have really gone up over the past week or two. Seen a couple of 30-point games from Bam, which is really an anomaly. But Bam has really stepped it up on the offensive end. He's been aggressive. He's looked pretty good. And what ultimately just draws me back to this Miami Heat team, seeing them win games like that game on Friday against Boston, they've just been there. They've been there. They've got the experience. And I look at some of these other teams like Toronto and Atlanta and even some higher up teams like Cleveland.
Yeah.
I know that I've said some things on the past on this channel, downplaying Miami, but Miami has that experience. When it comes down to it, they were one shot away from being in the finals last season.
Yeah.
Which is crazy to think about with that team. So I'm buying into Miami. I think that maybe they don't get a top 4 seed in the Eastern Conference, but when it comes down to the playoffs, Jimmy Butler is not someone you want to play. Jimmy Butler is not somebody you want to play in the playoffs. So I'm buying Miami right now.
Yeah, I agree. They have. I guess I know Jimmy was hurt. I forgot how long it was, but I guess they're built for the playoffs. Their experience they have. I think they have some guys that were on the team when they went to the finals a few years ago. The West isn't as close as the East isn't as close as the West in standings. Well, I thought it was close. And Miami's, I think, 8.5 behind Boston, the 1 seed, but they could easily jump up to the 4 seed in 2 games. So it's still a lot of basketball left. I think they are one of the teams that, even if you try to say they're not playing good or, slow start, whatever, they can still end up being in that top 4, top 5 maybe. So, yeah, I like what I've seen from them lately, especially with Jimmy being back. Besides, I guess, tonight. I know they kind of struggled tonight.
Yeah. They'll also get Victor Oladipo back at some point as well. Who knows what his role will be. But Miami's a team that I expect to be active at the deadline with maybe the buyout market just because of their depth, especially on the interior. I think that they're a team that could go after a guy like DeMarcus Cousins, or even if they want to go snatch Dwight Howard from Taiwan. I think DeMarcus Cousins would be a good fit for that team, though. I really do.
You think they try to move Duncan Robinson again?
Duncan Robinson? Nobody's going to take that contract, though, is the only thing. It's going to take a special team to take that contract. It's going to take a Charlotte Hornets team to take that contract.
I'm trying to think of teams.
It's going to be Charlotte, or I don't see why San Antonio would do that, or
Orlando.
yeah, it would be. I think it would be either like Charlotte or San Antonio. Those are the two teams that immediately came to my head.
They'll probably have to use some of their draft picks too, if they did move him. More than likely.
Yeah, and Miami's not a team with extensive draft capital, so we'll see. We'll see what they do. I expect them to be active, though. Kyle Lowry, I kind of expect Kyle Lowry to be around past the trade deadline. He's one of the people I expect to still be there, just because I don't see what's available on the market at this point that's really worth anything. So we'll see what happens with him. Jacob, who's a team that you're buying?
I didn't think I'd say it, but I'm buying the Brooklyn Nets.
Wow! 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 What prompted this?
Not a certain player, but I guess when they fired Steve Nash, I forgot what kind of stretch they're on, but I think they won like at one point it was 7 out of 9 games.
Yeah.
Kevin Durant, I think he was the player of the month this month. They just look good, I guess. Like T.J. Warren came back, he's been getting some buckets. Joe Harris is kind of slowly. I don't know. I know he's struggling, but I don't know because I've watched them. But I guess the Steve Nash thing has turned it around because we've talked to people lately about what coaching does, and I think that kind of flip that they did really helped them rotation wise, game plan wise. They just look good right now. They're just clicking right now. I know they lost to Boston last night, I think, but they're just clicking. I think right now on offense and defense.
So, with that being said, do you think that Jacque Vaughn will be the coach for them throughout the rest of the season?
I do. I don't know who else they would hire, but I think if they continue playing. Who?
Oh, I didn't say anything.
But they're the 5th seed right now, 13 and 12. But like we said, changes on a day-to-day basis. They're just clicking at the right time right now.
Yeah.
I'm going to see what coach you said. You said somebody.
I said Mike D'Antoni.
Oh.
I said Mike D'Antoni. It wasn't even worth coughing. I just wanted to be dramatic. But, yeah, Brooklyn has looked a lot better recently. They've shot the ball better. Seth Curry has given them some big games. I think him coming back in the lineup has definitely been really big for them. Like you said, Joe Harris has struggled, but I don't expect him to struggle for long. I feel like he'll find his groove. Yuta Watanabe has given them some good games. I know he's hurt right now. But inserting T.J. Warren could be really good for them, especially coming off their bench with maybe not the best bench unit.
Yeah.
The Nets look pretty good. The Nets look pretty good. They have a formula to win games. Is it consistent enough? Maybe not come playoff time.
Yeah, that's my thing.
Yeah, but in the regular season at least, I can see why you're buying the Brooklyn Nets. I think that they're headed in the right direction. I think that they've defeated a lot of their off the court stuff, which is probably the most important thing for them, with Kyrie and Ben Simmons both being able to be on the floor right now, which is ultimately what I was waiting to see this entire time before I gauged the Brooklyn Nets. So they have looked better. I do think that they'll be a playoff team. And when you have Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, Ben Simmons even on the floor, I know his playoff track record isn't the greatest, but that's a team who could really do some damage. But for regular season, I can see why you're buying the Brooklyn Nets.
I think they'll be good in the regular season, but the playoffs is I don't know. I just don't know about the playoffs, I guess.
Yeah. That's why I asked you, do you think that they'll bring in a different coach? Because Jacque Vaughn does not have a good playoff track record.
I don't know.
He was Orlando's coach back in the day, a few years ago.
They could take Doc Rivers, but other than that, I don't know who they'd have after that.
Yeah, I don't think they want him. I'm sorry. But Brooklyn Nets are definitely going to be an interesting team to watch over the next few weeks and months. I think that, like I said, though, all of them being on the floor together is the best thing that could happen for them right now. And, hopefully they keep winning games because they're a fun team to watch whenever they're playing well. This is a team, Jacob, that we had a disagreement coming into this episode about, and so I'm interested to see what your stance is on this team because I'm buying this team, and you're selling them.
Mm.
This is the Los Angeles Clippers. I'm buying the Clippers. Jacob is selling the Clippers. Jacob, I'm buying the Clippers for a couple of reasons. They are the sixth-ranked defense. Defense is, of course, something that travels, home and away late in the season. They bring back one of the best defenders in the NBA, Kawhi Leonard. He had a game-winning shot tonight, albeit against Charlotte.
Yep.
But even without them, they were 13-11 going into the night, surviving with guys on the floor like Reggie Jackson and Norman Powell and Nick Batum, Robert Covington, Amir Coffey. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention Zubac. Zubac, I went through today, and I made a list of centers that I think Zubac is better than. I want you to play this game real quick with me. Do you think that Zubac at this point, at this season, do you think that Zubac is better than Clint Capella?
Yes, this season.
Immediately, my answer is yes.
Yes, this season.
Do you think that Zubac is better than Yusuf Nurkic?
Yes.
Yes, immediately my answer is yes. Do you think that Zubac is better than Brook Lopez?
No.
No? Immediate no for you?
Yeah, you get no for me. It's close.
That was a close one for me. That was a closer one. But I still said yes. I still did say yes. Last one. Do you think that Zubac is better than DeAndre Ayton?
Yes, this season.
I said yes as well, which is crazy to think about with some of these names. Zubac has been so impactful though for the Clippers. He has single-handedly won them some of the games. Of course, over the past week, he had the 31-point, 29 rebound game.
Yeah.
But even outside of that, he's been their force inside. They lose Isaiah Hartenstein in the offseason. They've had to plug in Moussa Diabate to come in and play bench minutes just to keep them afloat. He's had some good stretches here and there. But it's been Zubac on the interior and the occasional Robert Covington minutes, which, as a former Robert Covington employing team, doesn't go very well. It really doesn't. So Zubac has really held the fort down over there in Clipperland. Norman Powell is a Sixth Man of the Year candidate. He really is. Over the past 6-7 games, he's averaging over 20 points a game. He had a 30 bomb against us the other night. He had another 30 bomb against, I believe it might have been in the Pacers game. It might have been in the Indiana Pacers game. Maybe. But Norman Powell has been really good for them off the bench, and that's a role that he can continue to thrive in even when Paul George and Kawhi return to action like they did tonight. This team is just built. It's built for it. We knew that going into the season. That's why we were so high on them, even though I had them as the 7th seed coming into the season. I still revered them highly as a playoff team, but this team is just built for it, Jacob. Tell me why you are selling the Clippers. What's your stance on the Clippers that has you selling them?
I think I had them at 3 or 4. I only have one thing, and I guess it's the Kawhi PG thing.
Understandable.
Which, they have kept afloat without him, but how long will that last? Down the stretch, maybe even the playoffs. If Kawhi and PG's not healthy, how far do you think they'll go? First round, maybe. First round exit, maybe.
In the playoffs, yes, they would be a first round exit with that team.
But with Kawhi and PG, they could probably go conference finals, maybe. But yeah. So I think it's just with them, it's just their health. So I don't know how many games Kawhi and PG will play this year. I think PG will play more than Kawhi. So I'm just kind of selling just because I don't know what to expect. I think we've talked about that. You don't know what to expect from them, even though they're playing good, but just from the injury standpoint, you just don't know when they're going to play.
Yep. And I think I did base part of this off of my preseason expectation with me having them as the 7th seed coming into the season. I think that they'll amass the 7th seed even if Paul George and Kawhi Leonard don't play a lot of games this season. I think that those guys are good enough. I think that Ty Lue is a good enough coach to roll those guys out there and have them keep them as a top 6 seed in the Western Conference. I really do. I think that with those guys, they still finish higher than a team like Portland and a team like Like the Kings, unfortunately. I think that they would finish above the Kings. I think that they finish above the Lakers still, even with how hot the Lakers have been. I'm not going to be a prisoner of the moment with them, although they look great lately. But that Clipper group is tested. They're a veteran group. They've been there. Think about it. In 2021, they didn't have Kawhi Leonard in the Western Conference semifinal series against the Jazz. Terrence Mann steps up and gives them 40. They have Reggie Jackson step up. This is a team that beat the number 1 seed with an injured Paul George and just everybody else. They made the Jazz look stupid on the floor. And they gave the Suns a run for their money before ultimately being beaten 6 games. So this is a team that's been there. They've been in those big moments. And I trust the Clippers. I think that's what it really boils down to. I just trust them.
Yeah, I guess they're built for the playoffs and regular season, but I think I'll be more confident with them in the playoffs healthy than throughout the regular season. Dealing with sitting out or resting guys.
Yeah.
Because in playoffs, you really don't rest guys. So
yeah, let me go through this again. So a healthy Clippers team. Let's imagine a healthy Clippers team in the playoffs. This is a completely different thing, off topic from what I was talking about. Do you take the Clippers at this point? Would you take the Clippers over
fully healthy?
Yeah. Okay. Do you take the Clippers over the New Orleans Pelicans right now?
That was hard. I think I'll go Clippers.
I'm going Clippers. Y'all know how big of a Pelicans guy I've been. I'm going Clippers.
It's tough, but I'll go Clippers.
Would you take the Clippers over the Denver Nuggets right now?
Yeah. I'll say no.
I'm saying yes. I am.
Okay.
Would you take the Clippers over Phoenix?
Yes.
Yeah. I would say yes. That's a little bit of a slower yes for me, but I'm going to say yes. I've become a prisoner of Phoenix. I know that they imploded last year, but I'm still a big believer in Phoenix.
Yeah, I'm last year. Yeah.
My only team that I can say no with is the Warriors. That's the only team that I can say no with.
Okay. I think
at this point, a healthy Clippers team. Think about it. A healthy Clippers team.
At this point, I think I'll say the Warriors and Nuggets.
Okay. That's fair. That's enough Clippers talk though. Jacob, you give me your next one, either team or player, whichever one you want to do.
I have how many cell teams? You got 1, 2?
I have 1 cell team.
I got 2.
Give me your other cell team.
Yeah, I got 2 of them. I got well, actually 3, but I'll leave 1 out. No, I'll talk briefly about 1.
Okay.
I want to know how you feel about this one. I'm selling the Dallas Mavericks. So, watching them, obviously Luka MVP candidate, top 3, top 5, whatever you want to say. They rely too much on Luka. So I know that's kind of been said, but actually sitting there watching the games, if Reggie Bullock, Dorian Finney-Smith, Maxi Kleber maybe not hitting their shots, it's Luka. Tim Hardaway Jr. But it's everything goes through Luka, which you expect as a point guard or your best player. But I just think they losing Jalen Brunson, I guess, the non-Luka minutes. It's just they're very reliant on Luka, and I don't know how far that he can take them like that. They can probably be a playoff team, and I know he took them to the Western Conference Finals last year, but this year with that team without that secondary ball handler or main guy, I don't know. I'm just not buying it this year. Which I was high on him. I had him I think fifth in the preseason, but I'm not buying it right now.
Yeah. I can't say I'm necessarily selling the Mavericks just because my expectations weren't super high to begin with, but I'm definitely not buying. I'm definitely not buying Dallas Mavericks because, like you said, Luka is everything. Luka is literally everything. If Luka Doncic, think about it. If Luka Doncic got hurt today, the Dallas Mavericks would be the Washington Wizards. They would literally be the Washington Wizards.
Yeah. Yeah.
They would be the middest of the mid if they didn't have Luka. Maybe that's even overstating it. They probably would be like a 10, 11 seed. But Luka's everything for that team. I still think that just having him, though, because he's one of the
Yeah.
top players in the league, I think that takes them probably to the second round playoff series. Of course, depending on who they play, we always have to say that. But I think this is a team that will sit in between the 5 and the 7 seed. I think that's where they'll sit this season. And they're going to be a team, though, that is going to desperately try to stay out of the play-in.
Yeah.
Because the play-in is the worst thing that can happen to the Dallas Mavericks. For them to have a one-game scenario, where Luka Doncic has to try his absolute hardest to get them into the playoffs before an actual playoff series, the worst thing they can have happen.
And it's not often, but just imagine it's an off night. So I don't know. I see what you're saying. Luka can carry him, like you said, but it's just I don't know how well I would trust it. Like I said, the second round, but it's just matchups, who they play.
This is not a team that's a championship contender. I do not view them as a championship contender. I think that they have reached their peak. I think last season, with this current, the way this team is built, I think that was their absolute peak. I know it's kind of early to say that since it was just last season, but that's my belief. I don't know where they can go up from a Western Conference Finals appearance. I was realistic about my Blazers team whenever they made the Western Conference Finals with Dame and CJ. There was no going up from there. That was literally the peak. That was the Mavericks' peak. That was literally it.
Yeah, I agree. I honestly don't even think they'll get back to the conference finals unless they make some type of move in free agency or trade.
They would have to have their shooters get so hot again like they did last year. That's what it.
I know Reggie Bullock has been. I forgot what it was, but it's been bad. Do you think they try to make a move at the deadline for that? I guess secondary star maybe.
No, I don't think they do. I think that Spencer Dinwiddie, Tim Hardaway Jr. I think that they feel, and Christian Wood. I think that they feel like they have enough. I think that they do actually feel like they have enough, like scoring wise, and I think they do have enough scoring wise, shot creating wise. But these are guys. I have a category of NBA players that I label as shot chuckers. The Dallas Mavericks have a couple of notorious shot chuckers. Spencer Dinwiddie, Tim Hardaway Jr. You can't have two of those exist on the same team on the court at the same time and expect to have consistent offensive production. It's not going to happen. That's my theory. That's like my overlying NBA theory. You can't have that happen. I'll have to get into more of my shot chuckers in another episode because I've got a whole list. I've got a whole list of them written down. But the Mavericks, they're not built for a championship run. They're not. Luka would be so tired by the time the finals came, and that's what we saw last year in the Western Conference Finals. He was gassed. He was done.
That's my thing. If they don't make that move, I like Spencer Dinwiddie, but I just don't think him and Tim Hardaway Jr. are enough to contribute enough to kind of get back to that point.
Yeah. And
without Luka just, overdoing it.
Yeah. And the thing about Luka is that is different from some other superstars is you can't put Luka off the ball. You can't really put Luka off the ball and expect him to be effective because he's not quick. He's not a quick guy. You can put him in some post-ups, I guess. That's the one place that you can put him. But when Luka's off the ball, he's not able to be effective. So they have to have him controlling the ball at all times, which is good whenever he's doing it because he's one of the best in the league at initiating points for himself and his teammates. But it's so draining to do that game in and game out, especially in the playoffs in a 7-game series when teams are, throwing everything at you. It's unrealistic to say that the Mavericks have a shot playing that style of basketball.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was a good breakdown, I feel like, of the Mavericks. And if they prove us wrong playing this style of basketball, Luka Doncic is like a top 10 player already. If he wins a championship playing this way, I will give him all the praise in the world because that would be absolutely unreal.
Yeah.
It would be unreal.
I agree.
Let me go ahead and give you my last sell team before we get into some players. This is a team that's not necessarily been bad numbers-wise. This is a team with a plus 500 record. This is a team that was coming into the night as the 4 seed in their conference. I know they lost a bad game tonight. It's the Atlanta Hawks. The Atlanta Hawks have some problems. They have some issues. Maybe not even with a lot of the stuff on the court, although they've been a bottom 10 offense. This is a team that has Trae Young and DeJounte Murray, 2 of the best playmakers in the league, and they're bottom 5 in assists somehow. Go figure with that. That makes no sense. This is a team. Wait, say what you're going to say?
I think they're both like top 10, Trae and DeJounte. Or I think Trae's top 5, DeJounte 15 maybe.
Which is crazy because they're bottom 3rd in assists. Crazy to think about. But they're 27th in three-point shooting coming into the day, which is horrendous, especially for a team that's in the top 4 in their conference. They lost to OKC tonight. They blew a lead to OKC. Trae Young did not play well. And that's kind of been a theme. Trae Young has not played very well. And it's caused some friction in between him and Coach Nate McMillan. I think that's part of what prompted me to put them as my sell team. Nate McMillan is going to be fired before the season is up, in my opinion. I just think that the style of basketball that he plays, that his teams play, it does not fit Trae Young. It does not fit Trae Young at all. DeJounte Murray can play that way because he's a good perimeter defender. Nate McMillan is a very defensive-minded coach. He's always been that in his days with Portland, in his days with Indiana. He's always been a defensive-minded coach. We know Trae Young is the furthest thing from defensive-minded. You've got guys like DeJounte Murray and Clint Capella who can dig in on the defensive end. But outside of that, on that Hawks team, there's not much there. There's really not much there. They won't struggle to score the ball, even with those offensive numbers that I listed. They still score the ball pretty well. They get to the free throw line. They shoot a good percentage from the field. They get rebounds. They get a lot of offensive rebounds. Yeah. But internally, personnel-wise, I just don't think that they are going to last throughout the season. I think that there's going to be moves, and that's why I'm selling the Atlanta Hawks ultimately, just because I don't think that their group will stay together. I think that Nate McMillan will be fired, and I think that John Collins might request a trade. I think that Clint Capella could possibly be traded. And from the start, I've not trusted in their bench. I've not trusted in their bench one bit. They've got Bogdanovich back now, but I don't think that's enough.
Yeah, I agree. I think this is the year John Collins finally gets traded. Clint Capella, I've kind of thought about, but I don't think they will. I don't know who they would try to get back for him, but yeah,
that's a very lateral trade. Never mind.
Yeah. Would you want a big that can stretch the floor? But it's not really many.
If they fire Nate McMillan, we'll give you Nurkic for Clint Capella.
See, I like Clint Capella, but it's just the offensive rebound that I like.
Yeah.
He gets so many of them. I've seen it firsthand, but I don't know.
I do think the idea of Clint Capella is better than what Clint Capella actually is.
Yeah.
There are a couple of players who are like that. I think Clint Capella fits that mold. And he's a guy who's going to get his numbers, but he's just you kind of forget about him on the floor. He doesn't really make an impact a lot of times.
Yeah.
So the Hawks are another one of those teams that I feel like are just floating. They're just floating right now, especially with Nate McMillan being their coach. They're not a championship contending team. They're a team that's trying to win games. They're a team that will probably be in the play-in around like the 6 and the 8 seed, I feel like. I think that they'll fall in there. That's where we had them to begin the season in our preseason standings. But based on their hot start, they've really kind of tailed off, and they've really had some problems internally. So I'm selling the Atlanta Hawks.
Yeah, I can agree with it. Watch Trae get hot and just prove us wrong.
It's very possible it's very possible that could happen.
Because there's a lot of games left, so it's just that one good stretch to help any team.
Yeah. Go ahead and give me your last team. We can talk about it for a brief minute, like you said.
Okay. I was kind of high on this team, not super, super high. The Minnesota Timberwolves. Yeah.
Chris Finch, Coach of the Year. Jacob, what happened to that?
I know. I guess the idea. Huh?
I said that was crazy. I said that when you said it. That was crazy.
I think the idea of having Rudy Gobert and Karl-Anthony Towns sounded better than it really is.
That's another one of those. Yep.
Even with D'Lo and Anthony Edwards, it just sounded better. They struggled. They just looked bad. I won't say looked bad offensively, but it was one play where Cat and Rudy were literally just passing the ball to each other like 5 feet away. One game. Yeah, so I don't know, and I guess Cat has been in the paint normally playing defense, but now that's Rudy, so it just doesn't fit well right now. I think we both agreed they gave up way too much in that trade, a lot of depth. So I just don't know how that can improve. And Anthony Edwards, I guess he's not as. I think he was my MIP favorite, and I think he's improved, but just not to that extent that we thought, or I thought.
You want to know my prediction over the next couple of weeks and maybe months for the Minnesota Timberwolves? And this is something that I've said for a couple of months now. What I think is going to happen over the next couple of months is I think the Minnesota Timberwolves are going to win games without Karl-Anthony Towns. I think they're going to win games without him, and I think that that's going to make him expendable. I said it in our collab episode before the season that if one of those two were to get moved between Rudy and Cat, Karl-Anthony Towns would be the one to get moved because this is the prime time. This right here over the next few weeks, maybe a month or two, is the prime time for Anthony Edwards to step into that just straight up number one role. This is it.
Yeah.
And if they win games and they have success, Karl-Anthony Towns is expendable. And they have to do something because on the floor, when they're on the floor together, Cat and Rudy, it does not work. It's not going to work in the playoffs. There are going to be teams go small against them. It's going to happen, and it's going to be an absolute nightmare. Absolute nightmare.
And I get, that's what hurt Minnesota in the playoffs last year was like the paint defense, but offensively it just does not work. But I don't even know who would trade for Cat.
And I'm not saying that it's a thing that would happen this season. I think it's going to be something that takes some time to develop. But I think that this could be the beginning of a narrative that, hey, maybe Karl-Anthony Towns is expendable. Maybe he should go somewhere else because this is not going to work. Anthony Edwards is the number one option now. What's the point? What's the point of being here? There are plenty of teams. I think there are plenty of teams that would go after Karl-Anthony Towns. I think that's no question.
I'm just trying to think of like fits where he could go. They'd probably get draft capital back.
Oh, most definitely.
I wouldn't say that team. I don't know. Say maybe New York, but I don't know. I don't know if I can see it.
Yeah, that's just that's one of my bold predictions, and I'm probably about 10% on those. The one that I did hit on was James Harden being traded from the Rockets. I said that a year before it happened, so that's the one that I like to own up to. There's plenty that I had go wrong, but yeah, the Timberwolves are not winning a first round playoff series in my opinion. They're not.
Yeah.
I don't care who they match up against. I don't care who.
What if the Kings sneak in?
What world would the Timberwolves play the Kings in the first round outside of the play-in?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think they would have beaten anybody unless they just get hot.
Timberwolves are not beating the Warriors. They're not beating the Suns. They're not beating the Nuggets. They're not beating the Clippers. They're not beating the Pelicans. They're not beating the Grizzlies.
Yeah.
They're not beating the Mavericks.
Yeah.
They're not even beating the Blazers.
Yeah. So I don't think. Yeah. Not unless they figure out something offensively.
Right.
Which probably won't happen, but.
Yeah. Let's get into some players before we close out.
Right.
I know that we've each got two more bye players here. Let me go ahead and give you my first one, Jacob. This is the first time in a while. That I've been a homer. But I have to be a homer. I have to be a homer with this one because this guy has been playing too good. It's Anthony Simons. Anthony Simons has been playing absolutely out of his mind. Damian Lillard has missed 12 games. He's missed basically half the season so far. In his absence, Anthony Simons is averaging like 30 points a game without Damian Lillard, which is absurd. He and Steph Curry are the only two players in the NBA averaging 4 3-pointers a game. And Anthony Simons is shooting 40% from three on 10.5 attempts a game. Anthony Simons fits that shot-chucking category that I mentioned. He's a member. He's a member, but he's an efficient one.
So he can make them.
Yeah. As long as you're efficient, it doesn't matter. Like Donovan Mitchell. Donovan Mitchell's in that category. He's kind of inconsistent, but when he's consistent, he's super efficient. Anthony Simons is the exact same way. I'm not saying Anthony Simons is as good as Donovan Mitchell, but he's just in that category. He has had nuclear quarters. He had a 23-point quarter against Utah Saturday night. He had a 22-point quarter against Denver earlier this season. He just gets on this tear where he demands the ball every time down the court, and everybody knows where the ball is going, but you can't stop it. You can't stop what he's about to do. I think personally he should be an all-star. That's kind of wishful thinking maybe, because the Blazers are like this 7-8 seed right now, and there are probably some other deserving guys in there above him right now. But as a homer, Anthony Simons for all-star, man. I want it to happen so bad for him because he deserves it. He's had a great season.
He has. I've watched a lot of Portland this year. Shaedon Sharpe's one of my favorite rookies to watch. The games I've watched, when he gets hot, he doesn't miss. Like he'll miss one and then make the next three. So he's like one of the heater players, but he's an efficient one.
Yeah. He's better than Jordan Poole, is not a question. He's better than Jordan Poole.
Yeah.
We can throw that narrative out the window.
Yeah, I've been saying Jordan Poole is not as good as a lot of people say, and it might be coming to light this year. Might just be a down year, but I'm not wrong.
Anthony Simons is better than Jordan Poole. I don't care. Anthony Simons is better. Who's your first buy player?
It's a funny one. I'm going Bobo. Just watching him.
What?
I mean, huh?
What's the reason? Tell me the reasoning behind this one.
Okay, just watching him. I mean, he's improved obviously, but he's getting a lot more minutes at Orlando versus Denver. A lot more touches. I guess Orlando just doesn't care. I guess they're developing. He just looks. I think he's averaging 12 points versus I think 4 the last 3 years. I don't know. It's just when he gets it, it's just I don't know. He's improving. It's just fun to watch, I guess. But I don't know. I'm just buying on it. He's improved, I guess. I might have found a new home in Orlando. I'm keeping it short, but he's improving. And it's just fun to watch. I'll throw him in there.
Yeah. He's definitely been a product of a situation where there's no pressure on him. He can just go out there and play. In Denver, of course, he played on a team that was a top 4 seed in the Western Conference. So whenever he did get in the game, it was, garbage time, basically.
Yeah.
Because that team was a team that was competing for a championship. So Orlando is a good situation for him. I can't buy it though. I guess I'm gonna be a killjoy. I know he's been fun. But the fact that he's drawn comparisons to Victor Wembanyama, because of their frame,
I'm not going that far.
They play so much different.
Yeah, I'm not going that far. But I guess slight homer pick. I watched him at Oregon some, but I don't know. He's just fun to watch this year.
Yeah, he definitely has been, and it's been good to see him average 12 points a game because he had that potential coming out of college.
Right.
So, like you said, maybe low pressure situations, maybe he's a guy that can thrive and, build his way up. It has been good to see. So my last buy player is Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. That's a pretty obvious one. I'm going to just keep it basic with Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. 31 points per game, 6 assists, 5 rebounds. He's an all-star. He's a bona fide all-star. He should probably be an all-star starter, even though the Thunder have fallen off record-wise. He's that team. He's basically that team. Him and maybe a little Josh Giddey, throw in some rookie Jalen Williams, maybe some Dort here and there. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is the engine that makes that team go. He's a top 10 clutch player this season. He shows up in the clutch And he's my most improved player frontrunner right now. He is. I think that he's the runaway award winner of that right now.
Yeah.
And it's early in the season, of course, and the Thunder tend to shut him down late in the season so they can tank. I wouldn't expect anything less from them this year, unfortunately, but they should at least do him the service of letting him play it out so he can be an all-star. I think that they will. So Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is he's my second bye player.
Yeah, I agree with everything you just said. I'll keep my last bye player short. I'm buying Trey Murphy, the third.
The one.
Obviously we've been high on the Pelicans, so I've watched this year. He can shoot, like he can shoot, and then he can. He had a dunk, not on Jokic, but what? I don't know. He had a good dunk 2 nights ago. He can just he's just improving. I think his points per game has went up 8 or 9 points. I think he just fits well with them right now. What they're doing in New Orleans. We've talked about it. Willie Green, amazing coach so far. Just very like Bobo, kind of very fun to watch and see him improve. But he's getting the touches to improve. Yeah. Versus on a I guess contending team instead of a tanking team.
I liked him a lot as a rookie last season. I thought that he was really, really good, and he's been their best bench scorer this season. I know Jose Alvarado erupted for 38 yesterday, but Trey Murphy has been their sixth man basically all year, and he worked out in the offseason, spent all summer with CJ McCollum. I think that benefited him super, super a lot. But, yeah, Trey Murphy has been really good to start the season. He's a super efficient shooter, catch and shoot. He shoots like 46, 47%. He's an unreal three-point shooter. And the perfect fit on that Pelicans team with a lot of guys who like to attack the rim and attack from mid-range. Trey Murphy is the perfect guy to have on the floor space, and he's a long, lengthy defender as well. So he provides multiple aspects on the floor. He's a great pick. I'm glad that you mentioned him.
Yeah, I hope they don't trade him. There's been, I've heard they have like one of the best packages they can put together, but I really hope he's still. Huh?
For who?
I've seen some like Miles Turner. It's like.
Would that involve Valanciunas?
I think so, but like I think it's more with their like young players and picks. I think. They was like if they decided to go get that, I don't even know what not star, but bench player star. They have a good. They said they have a good package they could put together.
I'm thinking about it. It would be like Trey Murphy. I figure you'd throw Jackson Hayes in there because Jackson Hayes doesn't play very much. You throw in some of those Lakers draft picks that they got. They have Kira Lewis. Kira Lewis doesn't play. The team could take a shot on Kira Lewis.
I would say Najee Marshall, but I don't know.
I wouldn't want Najee Marshall on my team.
Yeah.
I don't really care for Najee Marshall. Yeah, and I know Valanciunas hasn't been great recently either, so I could see something like that.
It had to involve Trey Murphy more than likely because I don't think they're trading Herb Jones, or
no,
obviously
they wouldn't.
Obviously, CJ, Bi, Zion.
They're not trading Alvarado.
Yeah, say obviously Alvarado. So I don't know. They just said they have a good package they could put together.
Yeah, Miles Turner would be a good fit on any team. Is the thing. He's the perfect player to plug in as a 3-and-D wing, space the floor, block shots. Any team wants that. So I'm so surprised that teams aren't blowing the Pacers line, blowing up their line, saying, "Hey, we want Miles Turner. We want him bad," because he could be that piece on a championship contending team. I think about a team like a
contending team.
Yeah, I think about the Clippers. I don't know why the Clippers haven't thrown like the kitchen.
They have a good package they can put together too.
Yeah, if I'm the Clippers, I'm trading for Miles Turner in a heartbeat.
The only other team is, like we said, maybe Atlanta, but they're not. I'm not putting them as a contender.
The Clippers are the perfect destination.
It has to be the Clippers.
Anyways, that's NBA buy or sell. two months into the season. Maybe we revisit this in a month or two and see where maybe we went wrong. I expect next week to be the second edition of Power Rankings because we're about 2 months into the season. So Jacob, you cool with Power Rankings for next week?
Yeah, that's fine. Hopefully we can get our team to be in there.
Yeah, it will look a lot different from the first time because there are some teams that have significantly dropped. There are some teams that have significantly rose.
Yeah.
So y'all be on the lookout for that next week. But appreciate y'all listening to this one today.
But homework team.
Homework team. I didn't even give a thought to the homework team this week, Jacob. Did you give a homework team this week?
It was Indiana last week, wasn't it?
It was Indiana last week, and they were decent. They had that game winner against the Lakers, so that was a good moment.
Whose team do we kind of want to curse this week?
It's got to be somebody who's played well lately. It's got to be somebody who's pretty relevant. Y'all watch the Pelicans.
Yeah, I'll say the Pelicans.
Watch the Pelicans.
They're like the 3 seed right now.
Yeah, they are 15-8 coming into the night. They've won some good games of late. Zion is doing his thing right now. So yeah, y'all watch the Pelicans. You should watch the Pelicans actually. I know a lot of people probably didn't watch the Pacers. Like, let's be real. You're not going out of your way to watch the Pacers if you're a casual NBA fan. So, but the Pelicans, you can do the Pelicans.
Yeah.
But, other than that, we'll sign out for now. We'll see y'all next week. Peace out, y'all.
Yeah.